on. So welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, everyone. As I said before, that was the amazing voice of Nina Simone. And with me to anchor this conversation today and to share in our final presentation is one of my dear friend, Eva Simone. And we're going to get into that today. I hope everyone has been enjoying the intentionality around the learning. And I hope you also do not walk away feeling like you need to carry everything one time. It's impossible to do that. It's impossible to do that. So do not walk away feeling that. Walk away feeling challenged, like I said. Walk away feeling bothered about the change you want. Walk away excited. You know, I have always talked about freedom dreaming and hope. I have to share this story because it's important. I was on a plane a couple months ago going to Ottawa, and a lady sit beside me, and I was writing something on my presentation I was working on. Maybe she saw the topic what I was working on, and so when plane almost land, she said to me, "What are you writing?" And I said, "I'm working on a presentation." And she said, "Oh, it's in equity." And I said, "Yes." And she started to ask me questions, like nothing to make me feel pressure, just simple, basic, questions. And we're just talking. And she picked up how much I enjoy what I do. She picked up the energy in which I was talking, and we shared. And then she revealed to me she's a professor at a university in Alberta. And then she said, "Just your old presence in sharing." And then she asked me a very important question, which I just want to share. She said, "Do you ever get tired or discouraged in doing the work?" And I said, "Absolutely." I said, "It's tiring. It's heavy lifting. This is heavy lifting." I said to her, "Absolutely." I said, "Discouraged?" "Absolutely." But I said to her, and then she talked about how broad my smile was. But then I said to her, "I am constantly sitting in hope and freedom dreaming." I said, "I am constantly thinking, imagine what this world, this space, the school, my classroom, my avenue, the organization, my group, whatever I'm a part of, would be if we were way more inclusive, if we had more empathy, if we were kinder, if we were just more inclusive and created more space and sense of belonging. What would this place be?" And so she saw my smile and she said, "Okay, I get it." I said, "Yeah." I said, "We can't lose hope." And I'm always sitting in hope. And that is why I wanted to share that story. We're going to get right into our next set of our next final part of the journey today. And we're talking about breaking the silence. I love this topic. Love this topic for a reason. I love this topic. I love to share on this because this slide happened during COVID. This is IDHOT, the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia. And this was a theme for 2020, May 17, 2020. We are all home. We are by ourselves. We are going through COVID. And this was a theme, breaking the silence. It was weird because at this very time, people started to learn and to realize that LGBTQ people, especially young people, were at home with families that they were hiding from, in spaces where they were silent. And now they are in the space and they can't go anywhere because school was an escape. Work was an escape. Going out with their friends was an escape. And they were now, I guess the word is, trapped at home in fear, in shame, in silence, in denial, in hurt, in trauma. And this was the conversation at that time. How do we break the silence? And so I wanted to take this to talk about how you and I can break the silence. It's a lot going on at this time. So this is 2020. Give you a little history lesson. This is 2020. And these slides I'm going to show you, these headlines are all from 2023. Take a minute to walk through the headlines. Just take a minute to walk through them. See what's happening on the journey. See what's happening within schools. This was made for you. Don't you worry. It wasn't made for school. This is the first time using these 3 slides. But I want to be intentional because I know you deal with community, and who is in school is in community. So I said I want to look for ones that talk about what's going on in schools. You see a lot of general stuff there. You see about the rallies, the backlash, the petitions. Wanting to make sure the people who have been breaking the silence for years are now being forced into silence. Here is the next slide. Take a minute to look at what's happening around us, affecting our students, affecting our community members, affecting your own staff employees who identify as 2S LGBTQIA+. I identify as a Black gay man. That's part of my identity. When I say on social media and I say I'm single, I'm looking a partner, people try to ask. I said, oh, I go back again. I said, oh, I'm looking a husband, just to make sure people know, right? So I want you to see what's going on. I go back again to 2017, 2023, breaking the silence. Now people are being forced back into silence. Third slide. Why do we keep silent? People are fearful of their families, friends, workplaces, religion, customs, expectation, shame. Can people be themselves at your organization? Can people be who they are around you? Do they have to come as somebody else to be included? Do they have to show up as somebody else? Do they have to hide parts of themselves? I remember my own journey growing up in Jamaica, going to church, constantly hiding part of your identity. And when you're into that level of silence, it's dangerous because you're born into silence, you're forced into silence. Silence hurt. I don't want to get into it today because I didn't prepare for those conversations, but I could give you data and statistics about suicide rate for 2S LGBTQIA+ people. There was a time when so many LGBTQ persons was in the news 2020 when they became homeless because people in 2020 were put out. It was in the news. LGBTQ were put out of their family because you're home with everybody constantly. And it's hard to be home every day, 24 hours a day, and hide who you are. There are controversial communities right now who are saying, well, we have to be silent. I remember being a guest speaker in Peel region. And there was a whole tiptoeing about persons who are gay, but also Muslim. Tiptoeing. And I'm going to show you later, I made it very clear that I know quite a bit of gay people who are also Muslim. So when people say there's no such thing, I am telling you that is foolishness. You saying there's no such thing doesn't erase somebody's identity. And more people are saying, I don't want to be silent because that silence that you have forced me into have led to mental health issues, have led to depression and anxiety, led to more drugs and suicide, dropout, broken relationship. People are maladjusted, trauma, you name it. The silence have eaten people away. Someone just last night, in a very private moment, called me from a different country, said to me, Andrew, I want to share something with you. You were right. She said, how did you, he said to me, how did you know? And I said, I just saw it. This person shared with me. They found out that their uncle is gay, was married to their aunt. Living in silence, living in shame, hurting himself, hurting others. When we force people in silence about who they are, people get hurt. People are not happy. People talk about staying in the closet. I don't know who is happy in a closet, unless the closet is some Wonderland magic closet where you go in the closet and you turn 3 times, click your something, and you go into a magical place. Like the closet is a secret door to some magic city. But that space there, what we call the closet, is lonely, it's dark, it's dangerous, it's hurtful, and it leads to all of this plus more. Do people have to be silent around you? Do people have to tell lies on themselves to be included and belong around you? I always say, and I want to go very personal on this, I always say to people, you don't need to celebrate me. Nope. I'm going to put on record to say this because people feel like somebody's forcing them to celebrate. You don't need to celebrate me. You just need to respect me and acknowledge that I'm there. I have never, ever forced anybody to celebrate. Never. Nobody to be forced to celebrate somebody. No, but what you do, you respect people's existence. I always say there are people who I care about, who I know do not, because of their religious persuasion, do not believe in LGBTQ lifestyle or LGBTQ people. And there are people who I care about. How do you balance that? How do you share yourself with those persons? And it's an ongoing conversation like all the conversations we have had. From that time, they said this. In our families, in our social circles at work, in our sports club, for many of us, our sexualities, gender identities, our sex characteristics must be hidden. We wander through most of our lives. Picture the word wander. We wander through most of our lives with the stigma of feeling ashamed of who we are. This year, that was 2020 we're talking about, we break the silence. We examine the many ways we can and must tell our stories, claim space, establish our voice, and ensure we are heard. We break the silence and tell our truths, our story. And that's what it's about, having people to tell their own story. I wrote this book. You can get it on Amazon. And I said, resistance is a tool. I believe in resistance, but it's not our only tool. That's why I love these workshops. That's why I love these opportunities to talk and to share, because I want to make sure we educate people. I'm going to share something very personal because I felt the need to say it. I always do things when I feel the need. Today, this day, if you follow me on social media, makes 1 year that my mom passed away. Today. And you may say, Dr. ABC, wow, you're doing this talk today with us. I knew that I was going to do this months ago. I knew what date was, and I knew. I can tell you, I've already prepared for the rest of today how I'm going to take some time just to be in reflection. I started the morning a beautiful reflection, and I will continue the day. But I wanted to do this. And I have a class today at 5 o'clock as well, which I can do well. My mom would be so proud to cheer me on. She loved what I do as an educator. But I remember, I'm sharing with you because I remember the conversations I had with my mother about my sexuality. I remember the conversations I had driving with my mom, who is a Pentecostal, every Sunday morning, front bench, white dress woman. I remember the many conversations I had with my mother. One thing I could tell you, in those conversations, I knew I was loved. That was the only thing I wanted from my mother, to make sure I was loved. That's all I knew. We didn't get into the weeds. We didn't get into the deep stuff, quote unquote. She didn't care to find out what the L, the G, the B, the I, the Q, whatever meant. Why there's 2A, why there's a plus, what is 2S, what does that mean? She cared about her son. When I have this conversation with parents and leaders like yourself and community members, I always say to you, how are you making your space full of love and kindness? That's it. That's it. Respect, love, and kindness. How do you ensure that in your space? So I want you to realize how important those words are. And if you check the recording, you will realize I have used the word love, care, maybe 5 or 6 times in the other presentation, because that is an important part. So the reality is, there are many countries, including where I am from, Jamaica, where homosexuality, 2S LGBTQ lives is in danger. They are still criminalized. I want you to know that. So when you see people running to Canada to come here for a level of safety, which we have our own issues here, because there's so many trans folks and LGBTQ folks who are unsafe. But of course, Canada projects to the world that we are one of the safest places. We are one of the most. The Prime Minister said it yesterday on CP24 that we are one of the most inclusive. Whatever. I'm not directly quoting him, but he said something to the effect, talking about what's going on in the Gaza region, about how inclusive we are. We are one of the most. People look. I think it's where the people look to us, and there are truths in that. Because many persons who are refugees, they run to Canada, they look to Canada for a safe space. Ask yourself, when people come into my organization, do they feel safe in your organization? Not because you have a pride flag on the door, not because somebody's wearing a pride t-shirt in June, not because there's a pride sticker or a pride button, not because they ask you to have everybody to have your pronouns in your signature. I know people who can care less about LGBTQ people, but the only reason why I have their pronouns in their signature is because it's an organization thing. I don't want people to force to be a part of an organization thing. I want you from your heart to say, I see you. You are different. I accept your difference. I respect your difference. You be you. You go be you. Go be you. I am good over here. You be you. Give me space to be myself, and I give you space to be you. That's it. So who benefits from our silence? Ask yourself, who benefits from our silence? At this time, I have for you a special guest who is just going to share. I'm going to spotlight Eva, and Eva's just going to share her story. She's an amazing trans advocate, keynote speaker, peer educator. So whenever you need someone in your organization to come back and just sit and talk to a group of you in one space at one different location, I recommend Eva, but I also have other persons I can recommend, but I recommend Eva as well. Absolutely one of my first choice, one of my top choices, as a matter of fact. Eva has been a guest speaker in my own class, and I'm using that for a reason to share with you how Eva has, I've been generous to share her story so we can be to a place where we understand and grow and learn from each other. I'm going to make sure my ringer is off. So that is it. So at this time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to pin Eva to it. And Eva, it's over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. always a pleasure to support the work that you do, the important work that you do, and I'm always filled when I'm done. And that is important for someone like me. We share so many similarities, so many intersections. Black, Jamaican. I am trans, a trans woman. And when I hear you talk about your mom, it is very much a similar kind of making sure that I'm okay, I got from my mom. Pentecostal mom as well. But she found a way to reconcile me with her faith. And that must have been hard for her. I won't tell you how old I am, because in my head I'm still 25. But in that time, especially in a place like Jamaica, where it's known for homophobia, in a way that it affects it is at the expense of people's lives sometimes, and that hurts my soul when I think that even to a lesser degree, and I won't soften it, to a lesser degree, today it's not the same in Jamaica. I don't live there, but based on information that I've gathered, it's getting somewhere. It's not quite there, but it's getting somewhere. And with that, I will go into what I want to say today. I was in the room with Nguyen, sorry, I'm botching your name, please forgive me. Nguyen, and what came to my mind was the economy of oppression. Economy has it has a payoff. Someone gets a payoff at the expense of someone else. And that's the economy. Whether it's going to be that people don't care about your life because of the way you see the world, the way that you walk through the world, or if something happens to you, you're not worth the time of being cared for, of being getting justice. Those things, that is the economy of oppressive behavior, because someone gets to benefit at someone else's expense. And yesterday in my talk on the backdrop of Trans Day of Remembrance, I borrowed a quote from a song. If I lose myself, I lose it all. If I lose myself, I lose it all. And that is what many LGBT people, and especially Black trans women, face. I now have to choose myself and be my authentic self, or become something that someone else wants me to be. And it's a painful decision, because on one hand, you could take the pill that is supposedly easier, but you die in silence. You die inside. You give up yourself so that someone else who does not have your experience feels better about you and feels like you're a good person. I'm all right with you as long as you can be who I want you to be. I expect you to be, not who you are. So if I lose myself, I lose it all for you to be okay with me. Lose it all, live in pain, live in suffering, so that you can be all right with me. And again, I go back to my mom. I had a mother who saw me, probably didn't want to accept what she was seeing, because her faith was telling her that somebody like me was a reprobate and somebody who is going to a sinner's hell for daring to be exactly who I am. She saw me, she nurtured me, she kept me close. Even at the times when she had to suspend her faith for me. And I'm eternally grateful for the mother that I had. It could have been a different way. Here I am now, living my truth. And even in this context, we see the rise of this anti-LGBT and specifically anti-trans rhetoric coming from people who are supposed to be leaders, coming from people who are supposed to have policies that affect people's life in a way that they can be citizens of the world. And they choose the lazy route of transphobic rhetoric to bolster themselves and to get the electorate to confirm their biases and vote from that perspective. So we're in troubling times. We're in troubling times even here in Canada, because the anti-trans rhetoric is out there. Let me walk in my authentic self without my weave as Black and woman. There's always a white man who's going to say something out of pocket to me. Nigger bitch. I've been called a nigger bitch. I've been told that I should be in the fields. I should still be in the fields picking cotton. All because I wear my hair that grows out of my head as a woman. That's what I get navigating downtown Toronto. Downtown Toronto. So last night I went to the Trans Vigil at the 519, a wonderful organization around LGBT issues. And I saw one of my peers, a white trans woman, cried over her child unaliving herself. And again, that tagline that I used in my talk yesterday, if I lose myself, I lose it all. I can only imagine that child chose not to be on the earth plane than lose themselves. And that's the position oppressive behavior and anti-LGBT, anti-trans rhetoric is doing to people, has been doing to people, and still is doing to people. And it must stop. Because you don't get to tell me who I am. I'm living this truth. I know me. I get to tell you who I am, not the other way around. Not the other way around. And I'm hoping for the future that we don't have to have these conversations. And we just let people be exactly who they are. The caveat being without imposing on who you are, because that is important. If people are living their lives, let them live their lives. It doesn't need your permission. We're all human beings having a human experience together. It don't need your oppression. It doesn't. And I'm hoping that we'll grow out of this. We will evolve out of this. We will evolve as a species, as a nation, as race, color, sex, gender, all of it. And I often quote Haile Selassie's UN speech that became an anthem for anti-oppression by Bob Marley, one of my favorites again. Until the philosophy which holds one race. But I look at it from a different sphere. You can take out race and put any intersection in there, and it works. It fits neatly. Race, gender, status, any of it, woman, man, all of it, until the philosophy that holds any one of those intersections, superior and another, there be war. And we're seeing that today, literally seeing war in the human condition, in the human psyche. War is happening because people won't let other people be themselves and have joy of life and have access and have what they need to live peacefully. So I implore all of us listening today, walk away with this. If we don't do it, it won't happen. If we aren't the change, it's never going to happen. We have to change, or it's just going to be a bloodbath. I promise you it's going to be a bloodbath. And we don't want that for ourselves, so we shouldn't want it for other people. And I'm going to end there because I think I've exhausted my time, Dr. Campbell.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
There's so much more to say.
Absolutely.
But I'll end right there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Eva. Thank you so much. Everybody can just give Eva a clap for that. Send some love. Thank you so much for showing up. And, you know, a lot of times when we have these kind of conversations, we do talk about, you know, hearing from someone with lived experience. And we do talk about that and we do value that. What I think many organizations who have asked even me for advice, they'll say to me, Dr. Campbell, how do I do it? And I always say, remember when you're doing that, ask if this person is willing to speak. Ask if this person, not because maybe, you know, you're paying this person, but ask, is this person willing to share? You know, and it's very intentional because you're sharing your story. You're sharing a part of who you are. And so thank you, Eva, for being here, for sharing with us, because that is important. And that is how we are growing. That is how we are growing. And I appreciate that. So thank you so much. And just to continue what Eva said. So if you remember, we talk about the bold part of the statement speaks about the ways in which we are going to grow. And so for the next few slides, I want you to continue journeying with me. Think about the things that Eva shared. Think about the statement from 2020. We examine the ways in which we must tell our stories, claim space, establish our voice, and ensure we are heard. Ask yourself, as an organization, how are we making space for others to tell their story? How are we giving space, not now claiming, but how are we giving space? How are we making sure people's voices are heard? There's a work the other day that lots of work being done about student voice. This is nothing new about student voice. The fact that in many schools, students don't have a voice. So many principals and leaders are talking about how do we ensure student voice? How do we ensure parent voice? How do we ensure community voice? How do we ensure the voice of students who have certain disabilities and neurodiversity? How are we ensuring the voice of our students who are hard of hearing or are deaf? How are we ensuring they are also heard? How are we in every way giving voice, allowing voice, establishing voice? How do we break the silence that has been weighed down? And I want to share you a couple of slides and then we wrap this up. So this picture, I'm sure somebody's saying, these people look familiar. I'm sure somebody in some of these rooms, somebody's saying that. Yes, they're familiar because they are the winners of Amazing Race, Canada's Amazing Race, couple of years. I see lots of you nodding like, yeah, I know them somewhere. And I'm going to tell you something. One, they both identify as LGBTQ, two as LGBTQ. But one is an educator, I think is in education, and one is a medical doctor. And I was at a conference where they both were the speakers. So I love to go places when I'm not the speaker and I get to just drink it up. I literally was in the back of the conference just drinking it up. I was invited to a First Nations youth conference, not as a speaker, just as a friend. And they were the speakers. I was excited. And they told their story, especially the medical doctor. You hear Eva talk about intersectionality. Whoo! I got a lesson on intersectionality. They shared about being a medical doctor, being First Nations, being two-spirited, being in the LGBT community, and the level of racism, homophobia, colonialism was faced with. As a medical doctor, being told, oh, I want a real doctor in the room. But that wasn't the first I heard that. I've heard Black doctors say that. Somebody says, oh, I want a real doctor. So think about the levels. As you're sitting there listening and you're thinking, oh, this happened to people. Think about the level of privilege some of us walk into. I've said to people all the time, I could go into a room with one of my students. If that student is white, I am the Black professor. It's the big chance that that student is going to get way more respect and way more dignity than I get. Maybe somebody will question, where is this young white person doing this older Black man? Are you safe? Yes, these things have happened. Because immediately, Blackness is into the equation. Accents, immigration status, all of that, belonging comes in. So tell our stories. Allow people to tell their story, and you tell your story. And take the time to tell your story. And you say it in the way you want to tell it. Claim space. I use this a lot. Claim space. This is also a trans woman, Laverne Cox. But I don't want people to always feel like they need to claim space. Can you imagine if we create a organization where we ensure that there is space? People don't have to claim it. There is a space for you here. And for those of you who may have followed me in social media, you see I'm talking a lot about Black educators, because what we are doing at OISE is working to create intentional space, because we do not have enough Black people who are turning teachers, so we don't have enough Black teachers in the classroom, and we need to change it. But the times when Black people are knocking on OISE's door and many other doors to say, hey, I want to be a part. You have 300 students in your program. Only 6 are Black. Only 5 are hijab wearing women. Only 18 are Asians. Only 6 whatever. And we see that people are trying to claim space. We are working at the university. I am pushing with other persons to not have people claim space, but to create space. So cross out claim space and write create space? How do we establish our voices? I put this slide in very intentional because when we had the controversy and a particular university, I won't say which it was, wanted me to do a keynote. And they said to me, Dr. Campbell, there was a big thing on campus when we did something to do with LGBTQ, and the Muslim community and church leaders came out, and it was a big issue. And so we have to be so delicate and careful. And I was a speaker, and I was intentional in putting these two slides in. So I say, I dare you tell me there are no gay person, lesbian person, LGBTQ person, trans person who are Muslim. I dare you tell me that. Because what you're doing is silencing persons who are at the intersection of Muslim and LGBTQ. If you are uncomfortable because you don't want people to feel like there are Muslim people who are gay, that's your business. I am telling you, there are gay, trans, lesbian, Muslim people, and I know many. So what your persuasion doesn't erase someone's truth or their identity. And right here, we have two persons like those. One person who is a drag queen right here in Canada, drag queen right here in Canada on the right, that's Mango Lassie on the right of your screen, and on the left, that is also a finalist in RuPaul's Drag Race. And that particular picture is a powerful picture because he was not only on the drag show, he chose for the first time to wear a hijab with the American stars. Very powerful moment. The dress is a stripes. The hijab is the stars. So that person is at the intersection of religion, of immigration, of so many intersections there. Powerful moment. I will never forget that moment. Establishing his voice. Ensure we are heard. This incident, many of you remember, a couple of years ago, when Black Lives Matter stopped Pride. Because there's a lot of division within our own LGBTQ community. We see racism within the 2S LGBTQIA plus community. They can tell you tons of story. Eva shared about her own story of showing up not just as a trans woman, but showing up as a Black trans woman who choose to wear her natural hair. And I know it must be heavy for some of you to listen to her and hear sometimes her choice of words. But you have to understand that is her lived experience. She walked in that body of a Black trans woman. We have seen racism in Pride celebrations. We have seen it. And so Black Lives Matter chose to make a stop here. It came all over the news. Many persons remember this. And they were splitting the community. How do we ensure that people don't have to fight to be heard, but you give them a voice? You give them a voice. How are we doing that? For people who are marginalized, not just for 2S LGBTQIA+, but whoever we have in our organization that are marginalized, how are we making sure people's voices are heard? They are not silenced. Bell Hooks, one of the greatest, she teaches us how to tell our stories, our truths. I am inspired by Bell Hooks as we talk about this work. So I'm going to leave with you 3 words today as we close this session, but we close out our day. And then before we leave, we're definitely going to have Sheena give the final words and comments. So Sheena will be the one to do that. So I'm not doing the closing. Sheena will be doing that. You have been a well-engaged group. And the last 3 words I'm leaving with you, I'm leaving it with you for all the talk we had today. It's not just for this presentation. It's for all the talks. The first word is affirmation. You'll be surprised the power of affirmation. You'll be surprised the power of treating people with respect and just seeing them. The power of saying to your co-workers, your employees, your team members, that was a good job. I have GAs who do work for me. They are my graduate assistants. And when the work is well done, they could tell you they have received emails from me time and time again saying, hi, Dia. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Leah. Excellent job on this project. Thank you so much. You did it. Those first 3 slides you see I had with the headlines, that was prepared by one of my GAs for something I'm doing with my class. And she sent it, hey, Dr. ABC, here is the slides. Do you want me to do anything else? And I said, it's excellent. Nothing else. She runs with that. Affirmation, affirming our children. Many of you listen to me, your parents, your moms, your dads. I am begging you, be the first one to affirm your child. Don't allow anyone to affirm your child more than you. Whether they are in trouble today or tomorrow, whether they are giving you trouble, whether they are this, whether they are that, whether what, you be the one to make sure your kids know, and the big ones, that they are loved. I tell people all the while, in my certain age I'm in my 40s, oh yes, getting a kiss from my mom, getting my mom who prayed for me to lay her hands on my head, I am telling you, I would exchange anything for that. The feeling when my mom lay her hands on my head, when she prayed for me, oh, I can do that better than a whole lot of stuff. Affirmation. How are we affirming our co-workers, our children, our partners, our husbands, our wives? Do not let it go. Do not allow anybody to affirm them more than you. I'm going there. Yes, I am going there. Affirm the people in your life. Tell them they're beautiful. Tell them. You see, I tell people all the while, if you look at people who wear hijab, sometimes some women who wear hijab, look at their hijab pin. That's a serious piece of jewelry. I remember I said it in a workshop maybe 5 years ago, and somebody says, Dr. ABC, I didn't notice. And they came back to say, Dr. ABC, I started looking at the people in my workplace who wear hijab. And I said, you are right. So many of the hijab pins are like, wow, where did you get that from? And I said, you never notice. Affirm people. And the next one is being an ally. There are many ways to be an ally. You don't need to put on no ally shirt. You don't need no ally button. You don't need no ally title on the door. You just need to see people, to be there, to speak up, to defend. You know, you need to correct when you hear people in the staff room saying certain things. You need to say, hey, you can't say that. You shouldn't say that. That's really wrong. You know, that's not nice. You have to go into the deeper stuff. I'm not equipping you to go fight any kind of war in the building, call out everybody who's racist, call out everybody who's homophobic, spin over every table. I'm simply saying be an ally, be a friend. See your friends. And the last word is action. How are we being intentional about our action? I created this the other day. Allyship and advocacy for 2S LGBTQIA+. And I prepared an entire diagram to share with the room. It was June the 1st. June the 1st. I prepared this whole diagram and people were ready to see all the stuff I put on this big framework of allyship and advocacy. And I'm going to share it with all of you. Here we go, everybody. Get ready. That's my framework. That's my masterpiece, Lynette. That's my masterpiece. Action at every level. Action at every level. For the person who's at the front desk who says, who do the greetings, to the person who has the biggest title upstairs, that you need 3 emails before you can see them. Action is everybody's job. I leave you with a picture of a family, Black family, who decided to take action in simple loving their child. I remember, and I can show you videos of the kinds of comments that were made by this great, great, great man, Dwayne Wade. We love him on the basketball court. And then we start to spit hate when we realize he was defending his LGBTQ son. 2019. Love and support that child. And that child blossomed into this beautiful young lady who they were. And no, nobody forced, and nobody, I hear people saying, thinking, whatever. This child just didn't know who they are. They are trying to find themselves. It takes time. Some of us are in our 40s, we still don't know who we are. Most are in our 50s, we still don't know who we are. We haven't defined and spent time to discover ourselves. But with love and support from his family, this child was able to transition in the beautiful young lady that she is today. Today, 2023, there's another big con on TV because Marlon Wayans, everybody know this actor in the middle. His child, his eldest child, Kai, came out as transgender. His daughter came out as a trans man. And there's a lot of videos out there. You could Google him. It's so powerful when he says how he had to learn. He had to grow. I think it's so powerful for parents to listen to him talking about how he had to spend time to learn and to unlearn. And what I love about his videos is how serious he is about, this is my child. None of you could say what you want to say. Stop putting me in your movie. Whatever you do, you are not going to pay me enough to not love my child. Many parents have abandoned the love for their children. Many organizations have abandoned the love and care and commitment they should have for their 2S LGBTQIA+ employees. We're not going to do that in our organization. We're going to make sure we are intentional about our actions. We're going to make sure we are intentional about our actions, our allyship, and how we affirm people, all persons within our organizations. Thank you so much for having me. The day is done. The day is done. Sheena has done an exceptional job bringing us all together. Thank you so much, so much, so much. The final word is going to be from you, Sheena. Go ahead.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Andrew Campbell and Eva Simone. I'd like to thank you for giving us the education you did today, for making us look at ourselves, to go inside, to make the change to action that we need, and for enlightening, inspiring. There were funny moments. There were moments I felt like crying. I think many of us felt all of our senses and all of our emotions today. And I hope we took away some learning today, and we can make some changes in our environment, in our organization, in our communities, wherever we go. I feel truly blessed to have gone through this training, this education with both of you. And in the future, I hope we'll meet again. And if there's any other further training we could do for our organization, yes, regarding LGBTQ or anti-Black racism, we're very open to that. So you could always email me if there's anything, Eva, that you would like to share with us, or Dr. Andrew Campbell. I'd be very open to that.
Thank you.
And so would everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You know where to find us if you need us. And we are absolutely willing to continue this learning, this unlearning in person, with a one small group, with a big group. It's up to you to decide. and let us know, and we'll show up to do that work with you as well. Enough
you
love,
so much.
everybody. Go have your lunch.
Okay,
Go have
thank
your
you.
best life. Go eat your lunch. Let me tell you what I'm having for lunch. I'm putting on record. I'm ordering soup. There's a place I order soup. There's a good place. They cook good soup because I can cook. Blossom, I could cook. Blossom, I could cook. I'm telling you, don't let me cook some cow food for you, girl, with some rice and peas. Don't play with me. Listen.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Bring it on.
And there's this place that sells such good soup. So today I'm ordering 2 different soup. I'm ordering some red pea soup and I'm ordering some cow foot soup. Oh, so I'm going to get my lunch.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.